Since 2017, the Italian Wine Podcast has exploded, recently hitting 6 million listens. Support us by buying a copy of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0 or making a small donation. In return, we'll give you the chance to nominate a guest and even win lunch with Stevie Kim and Professor Attilio Scienza. Find out more at italianwinepodcast.com. Chin chin!
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market. Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Alessandro Pasqua to the Italian Wine Podcast. Alessandro represents the third generation at Pasqua Wines, a Veneto winery founded in 1925. Alessandro is the president of Pasqua USA, and he has been in charge of sales and marketing for the North American market and Canada since 2016. Prior to that, Alessandro gained experience at Bain & Company and projects in Italy and Japan. Welcome to the show, Alessandro. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Juliana. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Of course. So before we dive into today's discussion about the U.S. market and Pasqua wines, tell us a little bit more about how you came to work for your family business.
Thank you for asking. I think part of the guilt, was probably our father, my father Umberto, that since the day one, was always involving us in what was the family business, what was all about what is a vineyard like, and was always involving us playing around it when was possible. Then, he had us almost like an opposite approach. He was always saying, you guys have to go out, you guys have to experience something new, you guys have to learn. And so he let us very much free. And that's when I was able to experience with the American firm of Bain & Company, and then it's kind of something you feel like yourself. You say, I did something, I did stuff around. And if I have to do an effort, if I have to sweat, blood, and run around, why don't you do for your business? Why don't you do for a family name or something that goes over and over to the next generation?
Right.
I think was a desire of doing business on your own and bringing this to the next 2, 3, 4 generations.
Right. So gaining some outside experience that you could then bring back to the family business to invest in the future of the company.
No, exactly. And then, wine is part of Made in Italy. Made in Italy is one of the coolest things that you have somehow in the market. As part of it, at least, there is the opportunity to travel the world. There is the opportunity of bringing something new to the table. There is all the digital landscape, which is completely or almost unexplored for the traditional wine business.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Both on the marketing and the sales side of things, I believe. No, absolutely. And then sky's the limit, as they say.
Absolutely. Well, Alessandro, in today's episode, we're going to focus on how do you maintain the ethos of a traditional winery, multi-generational wine company like Pasqua, but while staying relevant to present-day consumers. Today, Pasqua Wines is a really well-established player and also very well-established internationally, especially in the U.S. market where you're living and managing. So we really also want to focus on what you've been doing specifically in the U.S. market in order to see so much great success for Pasqua here in the U.S. We know that Pasqua USA was founded in 2009 in New York, and today North America has a value of over 18 million euro in sale, which is huge. So we're really excited to learn from you about what has made Pasqua so successfully internationally, but also in the U.S. in particular. So 3 key takeaways for today's masterclass and what we're very excited to learn from Alessandro are, number 1, how to transition a well-known third-generation winery like Pasqua into modern times. Number 2, how to be innovative with a very traditional product like Amarone. And finally, number 3, how to capture the attention of modern consumers, specifically in the U.S. market. So to start, Pasqua now has headquarters in Asia as well as in the U.S. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Pasqua US specifically and how the presence in the US market became such a key part of Pasqua's business?
Absolutely. I think this is a little of a signature of the new generation, if you want, invested in the business, where when it comes to, my family started with Riccardo, my older brother, who's now CEO of Pasqua in Pasqua, Italy. He came in the States in 2009 at that time, Pasqua was doing some business with some importers, was very managed off hands, if makes any sense. And we were really never local and pushing and understanding and giving maybe the right attention to what this market could have been. So maybe, Riccardo, the desire of exploring a place like this and the support and the back end of my father saying, I see the business plan there 1,000%, let's go. And they founded the Pasqua USA Importer in 2009, in fact, with the aim to develop the Pasqua brand together with a couple of previous tactical brands, if you want, that are kind of have disappeared now. But it's really the idea of developing the name, family name in a market like this, which is so exciting. So it started with very few. Riccardo went to the States. They put together the company in New York, and with the help of some brokerage at the very beginning. So that's a technical suggestion, maybe. So the support of third-party brokers in some regions, but still having control and being the actual importer for the wines was a very good kickoff for the first stages of the business. And the reason being, I believe, is definitely the present. Not all the Italian producer, and we are many.
Right.
Sometimes have the will to spend time and resources to be present every day in a market like the US, which is bigger than Europe somehow at the end of the day, because there are so many states.
Right.
As you know, every state is different. Every state has their own relationships. Every state has their own dynamics. And so probably this was the real leeway to develop strong relationship in this business, which even after COVID in the digital age, with all the products you can count for, it's probably the real key of our industry. Somehow, I hope I'm not saying something wrong here, but sometimes the more I go forward, the more I believe our industry is almost like the entertainment industry, where we sell something fun, we sell a release, we sell a treat, we sell a little bit of free time for the people, and so it's built around relationship.
Absolutely.
Quality of the product, no? Cioè, the quality of the product went up so much on average in every country who's a producer. And I think everybody's doing a very good effort in the out package too. So the relationship and on top of everything else, I think is a key factor. And when you're present in the market, I think this is invaluable.
Yeah. And so since 2009, Pasqua has made an investment in the US market to have a full-time presence here, correct?
Exactly, correct. And that started with my brother. And then, I joined the company after being in 2016, at the end of 2015 in the North American market. And so since then, we really transitioned to what is a generational pass, which is so often very critical in Italian companies. And so with that, our team grown from 0 to about 15 direct people.
Oh.
And which I was able to hire in the last years, and the business, went really up dramatically, which is great, because the beauty, I believe, of this country is the brand positioning you can make and you can leverage off everywhere,
Right.
and also the feedback you can get on the press in the US, I believe, are feedbacks that are kind of industry standards. And so those are really valuable across each market in the world.
Right. You can use like the feedback from the press, scores, et cetera, internationally. And when you're here in the US market, you have the ability to establish those relationships more closely.
Absolutely. Plus, you can learn some best practices regarding incentives. You can get best practices regarding route to market, trade marketing, consumer marketing. You can deal with some of the best grocery of the world, or groups, so you can learn what's the real best practice in some extent.
Right.
Not to mention the on-premise world. You have places like New York City, the California area, even Portland, Maine. I don't know, some up-and-coming area, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Austin, Texas. Yeah, I found one of the best food in the country was in Portland, Maine, to be honest with you.
Portland, okay. Yeah.
Exactly, the fresh produce, the sophistication of the scene, and then so many up and coming places, so much evolution happening in this space, I believe, which is exciting.
Right. And I think only by really being here in the US market and investing in it do you even discover some of those secondary markets, right? Because if you're coming once or twice a year, you're hitting probably your top 5 markets and maybe not even getting exposure to some of these secondary markets you're mentioning where you have less competition and you can really establish a stronger footprint. So it seems incredibly strategic, the investment that Pasqua has made in the US market. It seems like it's really paying off. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, and hopefully the best is yet to come, as they say. So
Yeah, of course. So shifting gears a little bit, Alessandro, you mentioned also one thing in the US market that you find intriguing and opportunity is the branding. So let's shift a little bit now towards the branding aspect of Pasqua wines. Obviously, the Veneto is a very traditional region. Amarone is a traditional style, even in the way it's been marketed. So how have you challenged as Pasqua wines the perception of the Veneto and of Amarone?
yeah, I think maybe you said it very much before in a sentence, like how can we talk to the consumer? Because at the end of the day, it's you do the product because you love it, you do the product because you believe in that, and you want to see the generation of drinker being happy and receptive about that. So you need to talk to them, and probably to need to talk to these people, you need to be always up to date and understand what are your priorities and maybe the other people priority. First of all, I think you mentioned the Amarone. Amarone is a category, is a wine that we love. Of course, is part of our DNA. Even if sometimes I feel sad when I see that it's kind of put in a category aside. Sometimes they do tasting and they say, "Oh, why those wines are amazing. This Amarone is amazing," but it's another category. It's kind of a porta-like. It's a dessert wine. Don't get me wrong, but it's characterized usually for being heavy, over mature, over structured, a little like not up to date, up to speed, if it makes any sense.
Right.
Higher alcohol, a little obscure or decadent. Forgive me, and I'm saying that as a part in
It
cause,
does.
of course. No, but so what we do here, we try to achieve and embrace a style which is respecting the pedigree of the terroir of the area of Amarone and trying to respect that, but into the future, which means I don't know. We were having a nice event with James Suckling at the Great Wines of Italy tasting some time ago, and the Amarone was poured, the 2017, the current vintage. And the way this wine drinks, the drinkability, the freshness, the fruit forward, the integration of the tannins with the alcohol, which makes it drinkable, not overly alcoholic or power, and almost reminds me, some of these wines from Oregon or Washington State,
Okay.
even Pinot Noir.
Huh.
Now you may think it's crazy, but this medium full body,
Okay.
happy, fresh, fruit forward, yet not sweet.
Right.
And I think that's a goal: the elegance and the liveliness.
So stylistically, you at Pasqua have taken a different approach. It sounds like to production of Amarone to produce a wine that's more in line with what we're seeing the market is asking for. I mean, we've seen trends around lower alcohol wines. We've seen trends around just fresher styles, wines that are more drinkable, wines that don't necessarily need to be decanted for several hours before being enjoyed. So it sounds like you've adjusted and aligned the style of the Pasqua wines to match the consumer. Is that right?
Yes and no. Sometimes when you say that, it feels a little more of a crowd pleaser. The reality is, and believe me when I say so, please, is that our mission at the end is to elevate the perception of the region in any project that we do. Amarone being the king of those, now from Verona. And Amarone, I generally suffer when it's put aside into the competition. Even, I don't know, think about the wine experience in New York. You have the best Bordeaux, best Burgundy, the best Brunello, the best Barolo. Amarone is always this different character, and I would love Amarone. We would love Amarone to be comparable with the great wines of the world. Full stop. For elegance, acidity, verticality, and so is maybe what now the crowd wants. Yes, but it's also true that you have people who loves, bombs, like very in your, as they say in the US, in your face wines. We try to achieve more elegance even in a wine like Amarone. So yes, packaging, we have a lot of fun with packaging, maybe more so in other items. On the Amarone is really the winemaking where we put all the efforts, and even a project like Mai Dire Mai, the single vineyard, that's where a project we are exercising with almost a champagne density in the vineyard, which means 10, 11,000 vines per hectare, which gives a lot of extraction, a lot of contents into the wine. But then the acidity of this terroir is so crazy that it's comparable with Bordeaux and these guys, and I think it's an achievement for Pasqua.
Wine to Wine Business Forum. Everything you need to get ahead in the world of wine. Supersize your business network. Share business ideas with the biggest voices in the industry. Join us in Verona on November 13 to 14, 2023. Tickets available now at wine2wine.net.
You mentioned packaging a little bit earlier, and I want to talk a little bit about that because, Pasqua's embraced some innovation in its wines with these multi-vintage blends. So tell us a little bit about those wines, how they came about, the approach to these multi-vintage wines, because it's definitely something unique for the region.
Absolutely, and I think the beauty of that is coming from about 98, about let's say 100 years of history in the region. You can leverage on this track record, on this past, to create something different and which can be credible.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe Pasqua was, you were mentioning the multi-vintage white, I think. So Pasqua is maybe one of the oldest producer, or one of the old producer historical of Soave in the Verona area. And with that tradition, we had enough time to experiment the Garganica grape. We had enough time to be around in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the desire to elevate the region as much as we could. And so we thought that, first of all, selecting a single vineyard in the area of Soave Classico, which actually with a designated under sublocation. Forgive me, I don't know how to say that in English exactly. UGA of Monte Calvarina. So it's a specific plot
Okay.
of land where we wanted to enhance all the capabilities and characteristic and DNA of Garganica. So we decided, how do we do longevity? How do we give profound? How do we give layers of complexity, tertiary notes, minerality, sulfur, and all these beautiful things that are a combination between Trebbiano d'Abruzzo and Friuli and White Burgundy. And the multi-vintage was the idea that really was motivated from the champagne industry.
Okay.
That we wanted to apply to the still wine, and that's something that was never really done maybe before, at least at a scale. And once you come out with something like that, as far as winemaking, you really want to dress it up, tailor around it a nice dress, a nice package,
Right.
because it deserves it, we think. And in this case, for example, to the wine called A French, you could have made this, but you didn't.
I love the name.
And that's what we love. You just had a laugh about it, and that's what we want to provoke.
Right.
A little smile, because it's a tribute at the end to great wines of the world like White Burgundy, but it's a little pride in a sense that the French, they invented maybe the cuvée on the champagne, but they really don't do that on the still wines.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, it's a game of classic and modern playing together. We got an old bottle of Pasqua from the 50s that was reinvented and designed and disrupted by a French artist, a pop artist named C.B. Oyo.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this old bottle that is completely full of color and paint everywhere, very untidy and noisy, and we love it. It's pretty unique.
And you now in your third edition of this wine, correct? So I'm assuming it's been successful if you're making it now for the third time. So how is this blend, this multi-vintage blend, been received in the international market and in the US specifically?
I would say good. First of all, third edition means that it's kind of an early project, and that's true. We launched this not too long ago,
right?
And even if the library of vintages goes all the way back to 2013, no, very good. Because first of all, gives a glimpse of how good the volcanic soil of Soave can result, and we've been participating with this wine at some volcanic soil tasting, which I thought was very interesting. It was successful because it's fun. It's a little point of conversation. Maybe the sommelier who embraced the project understands it, love the idea of talking about something new from an historical region rather than the usual, forgive me, the usual Sancerre or the usual Chardonnay from the New World. And so it's going very well. Of course, it's more like a niche project catered to the on-premise. But I mean, my first customer of this wine was a 2-star Michelin French restaurant in New York City.
Oh, wow. That's kind of surprising. Maybe they found it, the label though to be, like I did, a kind of fun, intriguing, surprising label for a traditional list, perhaps.
Exactly. And then, the high-end white wine from Italy, that category is not particularly crowded, if you think about it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
why not having
Right.
an alternative to very established brand and super successful that we have from Friuli or Umbria. So
Right.
yeah, it's going well. We
Very
love it. This
cool.
person is one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, and I had the opportunity to try it a couple of years ago and really, really enjoyed it. And actually, it was a really unique event that Pasqua had hosted the House of Pasqua at Venetoli back it was June 2021 when we were off with the COVID years. So tell us a little bit more about the relationship Pasqua has to art. You mentioned the art labels and the artists you worked with for the multi-vintage blend. But tell us a little bit more holistically about Pasqua's approach to the innovation and integration of art into its wines.
No, absolutely. As we well know, the wine is a product coming from clearly the nature and the land, and so it's a product that is very connected to the human being. Clearly, maybe somehow more than others. In that regard, we believe
Mm-hmm.
strongly that the emotional involvement is something that really needs to be a key factor in the consumption of wine and in the communication of it. And so we thought that there is no better, emotional involvement and if somehow elevating that art, if you want, especially when it comes to what's happening right now. So when it comes to digital art, when it comes to all these new avenues of capturing attention and evolving of art that we see around in these days. And so this project started with a press campaign, which was pretty successful for us. That was called Talent, Never Tasted Better. And that, was some sort of mecenatism, if it makes sense in English,
Okay.
some sort of sponsorship project that Pasqua started with three very strong but still unknown artists. A
Okay.
dancer, and she was a dancer at the Juilliard School of New York City from Verona, a chef, and an artist. And last but not least, the Italian golfer Francesco Molinari, who
Okay.
won the British Open some time ago, an artist in his field, if you want. And so the idea is Pasqua helping some of these people to realize their dreams with a support partnership, a sponsorship. And this really started like a virtuous circle where
Mm-hmm.
the collaboration with artists has become now about 50 or 60s, when the last one were the community of Fuse from Bologna. And we did an art installation called Luna Somnium during Vinitaly 2023, this year. And that's crazy, because these guys took really like how you call it, like an aerostatic balloon. We put it in the middle of a fair pavilion, the historical fair in Verona,
Okay.
and we did a laser and audio spectacle art installation, again called Luna Somnium. So we embraced the moon and we reproduced the moon again in the middle of Verona in a pavilion.
Very cool.
And when you do those things, no, exactly, it was incredible. But the best of it is when you see the city, the citizen of the town coming to visit what you do for it. So in those events, usually we present a wine which has a story connected to the art installation we like to propose, or if you will, to offer to the city. So it's really a path that has made us evolve and grow
Mm-hmm.
with it.
And I imagine also an effort and an initiative, ideally, that's reaching new audiences for Pasqua wines as well, and allowing you to tap into new consumers ultimately to build the brand.
See, that's definitely part of it. The winemaking, and I think we spoke about it a little bit today, is key and is every day.
Right.
No, that's a mission. But why not dress up all this work with a nice dress as well?
Mm-hmm.
Because it deserves. And so it's a last mile. It's an additional effort we do, and I think you can create a brand which is more lifestyle somehow rather
Mm-hmm.
than not being strictly traditionally a wine brand. And I think if you do that respecting what you have in the bottle, what's the real goal, what's the real, product, if you do with respecting that, I think it's very interesting and kind of unique.
Yeah.
So definitely, hopefully new consumer will love that.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier too, I mean, you're looking at wine as entertainment in a lot of ways. And I think that's a really smart way to be thinking about this product. It's a lifestyle product. It is entertainment. It's an indulgence for people, and bringing in that beauty and that art to it makes a lot of sense to me when you look at it from that lens of entertainment.
Absolutely. And then I think that if we are always able to keep clear and real that the research and development in the product is crucial, is key, because we can afford not even, to go too far away and become just a lifestyle brand, because
Right.
we are not, with all the respect, but it's the nature of it maybe, we're not like a spirit, or forgive me, like maybe a ready to drink category product. We need to respect, and evolve in the category, in the meaning, in the winemaking, in the technique, and in the research of the vineyard and what we can do, the sustainability,
Of course.
and all of that. But yes, it's entertainment in a sense that it's. Yes, it's a passion. It's something that make you feel, free, make you rest, make you recharge the batteries, because it's
An indulgence. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned, Alessandro, RTD, spirits, other categories. We know from a lot of research that's been being put out by Silicon Valley Bank and Nielsen and other research organizations that, especially in the US market, younger drinkers are not drinking as much wine. And I hear that you did some of your own research at Pasqua Wines about younger consumers. So tell us a little bit more about that research project and what you found out.
absolutely. That was a very interesting research that we commissioned during this year in 2023. And I think that the results that were there, the key results were that, and we were not too surprised, when they say people spend so much and always more time on the phone. The phone means information, means accessibility to all the products of the world, almost. It means involvement. It means consuming not only the product, but for example, consuming art. And so, on top of all of that, I think there is if you ask me what could be a concern for me, Alessandro, in the industry, could be the consciousness of the dietary evolution and restrictions, so calories and the support of alcohol in the diet, rather than, of course, all what it is, the environmental changes.
Right.
So what product can stay with the same organoleptic profile and can be sustainable still. So that's another key item. And so, you really see that people, generally speaking, prefer red wine when it comes to wine. They want to drink better. They are a spoiled consumer in a sense that there is so much education available. And so the selection of wine is really, also when it comes to wine, is catered maybe to, when it's not merely price, which is still is a thing, but maybe the majority is more like understanding where it's coming from, what it is about, who's making it, how does it look, where is it sold. And so information is really driving, I believe, some of the key decision. And that's why also we selected the art and the digital art, because that's art that can be consumed by these people on the phone or in the digital devices. And those
Right.
visuals, speaks to them, make them feel comfortable. Like when you buy a nice pair of sneakers, you buy a nice pair of whatever clothes. I know it sounds crazy maybe, but you feel comfortable when you have a series of storytelling which is compelling and bring you to explain and explains you what it is about. And so definitely RTD are stealing market share to probably Pinot Grigio. Rosé, that was exploding for the last years, definitely I think arrived slightly to a plateau where now it's more of a market share play among brands now than an expanding market. And again, RTDs are so successful maybe because of the calorie concerns, the dietary restriction, right?
Right. The transparency on the labeling too, right, of the ingredients. We talked about information and a younger generation wanting
Yes.
information about what they're consuming, including information, the caloric and nutritional information key, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then on top of that, you say gluten-free is only 31 calories, however it is exactly.
Sugar-free, etc.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you will, that was part of the success of Tito's vodka, no? Which is a phenomenon from Texas, made in US, so sense of place, a little bit of pride in it, and then I believe now gluten-free was one of the key factor. But No, absolutely. Those are the threats. And that's why, even if I believe in the life, we believe, of course, in the lifestyle brand 360 degrees, the winemaking needs to be always the key. It needs to be something, you never forget sustainability, organic portions are growing for us, are becoming more relevant, the organic plantations. And so
Of course.
it's crucial. It's really crucial. No, that's when you retain the curiosity and the respect of the people, because when they're so selective, at least when it comes to wine, you try to do the best that you can in that regard.
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, Alessandro, we're coming to the end of the episode, and we like to end every episode of Masterclass US Market with a rapid fire quiz where we ask each of our guests to answer 3 questions in just a couple of sentences that will allow our listeners to better understand the US market. Because again, that's what we're here to talk about. And you gave so many great insights today about your own experience with Pasqua wines in the US. So question number 1, what is your number 1 tip for mastering the US wine market?
Work the market.
Okay.
And that's easy to say, find a right partner, find the right importer. Maybe not being the smaller guy in a large organization, maybe try to be a larger player in a smaller importer, a smaller organization.
Great advice. Number 2, what is something you might have told your younger professional self about selling wine in the US market?
That's a good question. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I like that. Always good advice. Okay. And finally, question number 3. What is your favorite travel hack when doing market work? You mentioned doing market work, and you know you're traveling often between Italy and the US and other markets. So what's one of your favorite travel tips?
Travel tips?
Yes.
I don't know. It's really like an adventure all the time.
Be prepared for anything.
Find a passion and read a lot.
Yeah, read a lot. Okay, yeah, it's always good to have a book when you're on the plane.
Physical books.
I enjoy physical books too. I refuse to get a Kindle. I stay a little old school there. Well, Alessandro, thank you so much again for joining us today on Masterclass US Wine Market on the Italian Wine Podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Juliana.
Thank you again. Ciao. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.